Well, if you're like me, you don't really keep up with all of the super latest technology, but you have seen this ChatGPT thing everywhere and you have no idea what all the fuss is about. So this video today is going to show you with actual screenshots and video what this program does. And as the series continues, we're going to look at the implications and effects that ChatGPT will have on homeschooling and education in general. And we'll also look at how this technology and similar technology are going to affect our children's futures, which obviously affects how we educate them today. So in a nutshell, ChatGPT is an artificial intelligence language model. We'll talk a little bit about what exactly that means. And it provides users with information or creations. And you'll see a little later what exactly I mean by that. So basically what these developers at OpenAI did was to take literally millions of pieces of written language. Everything from novels to reference books to articles from newspapers and magazines to songs and poetry and plays and scripts. Some of it was factual, some of it was fictional, some of it was fake news, some of it was satirical. And they used these millions of pieces of written information to train this AI to recognize language patterns so that when the AI is helping you through its program to do whatever it is that you've asked it to do, it can give you that information in a conversational way that comes across as though you're actually speaking to a person. So what that means for you, the user, is that ChatGPT is kind of like a combination of a search engine like Google and a creative genius. Now, let me show you what I mean. When you use ChatGPT, the program is not connecting to the internet to get its information. It's actually pulling from all of the millions and millions of pieces of information that were fed into it, so it has its own database. Now, one of the limitations of that database is that it only goes up to about 2021. So if you were to ask it anything from that point forward, it would not have any idea what you're talking about and it wouldn't be able to help you. So let's start with something very basic. I asked ChatGPT, who is Van Gogh? And this is what it did. It gave me an incredibly concise, surprisingly accurate, very well written paragraph that explained all about who Van Gogh was. It tells me where he was born, it tells me what he is known for, it lists some of his works. So right above the search field, there's a button that says regenerate answer. And if you click that, it will do just that. It will generate a new answer for you. In this case, it was a much shorter answer, but it was still very well written and informative. And if you take a look at the left-hand side of my screen there, you'll see that in that black margin, it now has a listing at the top that says Van Gogh. And what it's doing is keeping track of the searches that you've done. In order to access ChatGPT, you have to create an account, and once you do that, it saves the different things that you've searched for. You can also delete those, and you'll notice as you see the videos that I've done, I started fresh every time, so you're not going to see them listed on the side. Now, one of the ways that ChatGPT is very different from a typical search engine is that you can do lots of things besides just asking it to give you information. You can ask it for instruction. So for example, I asked, how do you reduce a fraction? Now this gave me a full set of instructions, including an example. And thankfully, it was all accurately done. You cannot guarantee that everything ChatGPT gives you is accurate, and we'll talk later about why. But in most mathematical things, I did find when I was playing around with it that it tended to be accurate. The other amazing thing that you can do with this technology is that after you've asked it a question like this, you can ask it a follow-up question. So for example, I asked, but what if they don't have a common factor? Now, there are two really incredible things about the fact that it gave me a perfect answer to this question. The first is that I did not specify what I was talking about. The program looked back at my first question, realized, oh, we're talking about fractions. So it knew when I said factor that I was referring to the numbers that we use to multiply together to get an answer. The other thing that this program did is that when I said they, I didn't have to specify numerator and denominator. It knew, because of what we were talking about and the way that we use language, that when I said they, I was referring to the two things that the program told me I had to look at in order to reduce a fraction. This is very useful because it allows you to be able to ask clarifying questions or to go deeper into what you asked the first time without having to restate all the information again and have it take forever to ever get the answer that you're looking for. So earlier I said that ChatGPT is kind of like a search engine plus a creative genius. Here's what I mean about the creative genius side. You can not only ask for information or ask for instruction, you can actually ask ChatGPT to create for you. Now, it does have to be a text-based creation that you're asking for, but watch how powerful this is. I asked, compare and contrast West Side Story to Romeo and Juliet. ChatGPT returned a 4-paragraph essay, complete with an introductory paragraph and a concluding paragraph, and it did exactly what I asked. It told me what they had in common. It told me what was different. I know both of these shows, so I was able to realize that yes, this was actually quite accurate. This essay was not particularly creatively written. It was not particularly interesting to read, but it was accurate, it was concise, and it did exactly what I asked. You can probably start realizing some of the implications this is going to have in education. Now, people have been getting very creative with how they use this particular aspect of ChatGPT. I have a tweet here from Reverend David French, who asked ChatGPT to write a song about Jesus in the style of Thomas Aquinas. Take a look. It's not bad. Computer programmers have even been using ChatGPT to write code for them. Fix this problem using Java, and it does. Now, obviously, just like any other form of technology, ChatGPT does have some limitations. First of all, like we mentioned before, its database only goes up to 2021, so anything after that point, it's not going to have. Now, they are continuing to release new versions of this over time, and so one would expect that eventually over time they will kind of catch up the database to current time. But for now, you are limited on that. The second thing is that ChatGPT cannot confirm that it is giving you accurate information. Also, like I mentioned earlier, it's pulling from the database that, remember, had fiction and false news and satire. So while it is looking, I'm guessing, at what the majority of things tend to say on a particular topic, you can't guarantee that it's going to give you accurate information. It also isn't able to tell the difference between the different kinds of data that was fed into the program. So it doesn't know if the source that it's pulling from when it is compiling an answer for you, it doesn't know if that source was a true source or a fictional one. Now, when you first log in, on the very front page, it shows some of its limitations. One of the things that it lists is the fact that it might accidentally produce harmful or offensive or biased information. Because again, it doesn't know what it is telling you. This is not a sentient being on the other end of this computer screen. This is a program that is pulling information together, curating from all of these different sources, and using what it has learned about language, it is presenting you with what you asked for in a conversational way or in the style of whatever it was that you told it to give it to you in.
Yes, that is essentially correct. I am a large language model trained by OpenAI that was trained on a diverse range of texts from the internet. When a user asks a question, I analyze the text of the question and use my understanding of language and the information I have seen in my training data to generate a likely answer. I don't have access to a single database or source of information, but I have been trained on a wide range of texts so I can use the information I learned from those texts to generate a response. The answer I provide is generated based on the input I receive, and I do my best to provide accurate and relevant information based on the context of the question. So, I was close.
So it can't tell if what it's giving you is going to be offensive. It also doesn't know who you are, so how is it going to know if it is offensive to you? Now, it does have one good limitation, and that is the fact that it can't be made to do certain things. For example, according to the program, it will not create content that is illegal, harmful, offensive, including material that promotes hate, violence, or discrimination, or anything containing sexually explicit or vulgar material. Now, the reason it can't do that is because it has been programmed to follow OpenAI's responsible AI use policy, which includes ethical and moral guidelines. Naturally, I had to ask, whose morals? The response was OpenAI's, who are committed to responsible AI development and use. Okay, this is shady for a couple of reasons. We'll talk a little bit later in one of the other videos about why. Now, one of the other drawbacks is that it has been programmed with bias. Now, it claims not to be. However, when you start doing certain searches, you realize it actually does have political bias. For example, you can ask it to write a Shakespearean sonnet in praise of Nancy Pelosi, of Joe Biden, of Anthony Fauci, even of Carl Schwab. And if you don't know who that is and you're ready to dive down a rabbit hole, you're going to want to go Google his name later. But if I ask it to write a Shakespearean sonnet in praise of Donald Trump, it tells me that it can't because it goes against its ethical guidelines to praise a controversial political figure because doing so might convey bias. I'll put the website for ChatGPT down in the description of this video if you want to go try it for yourself. Now, do realize that the reason that they released this thing out into the wild like this is so that they could essentially use the masses to beta test. So you are helping this organization to better this product. Decide before you start playing around if that's something that you really want to do. In the next video in this series, I'll be talking about the implications and applications of ChatGPT for homeschooling and education in general. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.